First one, we're broke. We can't keep spending. We're broke. Game over. 2, no one's going to ride in to save you. No one. There's no hero. It's going to be you in the end. You see the scene in Pakistan? People were waiting in line for AIDS from floods, and they were complaining, how come the AIDS not here? Look, when America is gone, who's going to save the people in Pakistan? See, we got to change this one because we're the ones that always ride in to save people. The third one is, we're not an empire. People think we are, but we're not. Empires don't take crap from other countries. France, we would have obliterated a long time ago. We're not an empire. But we may be Rome, because we are not immune from suffering the same fate as they did. You know, they were amazing as well. They brought innovations such as the state-of-the-art construction abilities. They were able to build enormous, enormous bridges over the Rhine and the Danube. They finished a bridge over the Rhine in less than 10 days. Look at that. You think we could do that? They didn't have unions back then. Trick question. They created a road system so sophisticated that road travel times didn't decrease until the invention of the steam engine during the 19th century. And, of course, the Colosseum, which I think this would have been cool. You know, they filled this with water, they think, and they could reenact naval battles. I mean, these people were, okay, they did feed people to the lions, but that's a different story. They created massive aqueducts. They brought us a calendar with a leap year. This was an empire. The world emulated these things, and we still use a lot of these things today. But when they went away, they still went away. Do you think anybody might have said, oh, we're Rome, we'll never... And they ended, which was a good thing, because remember the lions. If we end, what is it the rest of the world takes from us? What else have we left? McDonald's? Coke? What is it? It's one thing that the world should take from us, but I don't know if anybody has it anymore. And it's the fighting spirit. It's American ingenuity. It's the never say never attitude. Let me ask you this, America. What's over the horizon? Over the horizon, as you look and stop looking at today, Americans were always about becoming and not being. Now we only care about being. What's over the horizon? What are we becoming? Are we going to become more free or less free on the road that we're on? Our laws, we have more laws based on the Constitution or more laws not based on the Constitution coming our way? Are we going to have more tolerance or just more political correctness? See, these are the questions that people need to ask. But we're being told to unite. We got to unite, we got to unite, you got to unite. On what? Unite on what? Just for the purpose of uniting? What do we stand for anymore? Do you know why people hate us around the world? Because we don't stand for anything. You think we actually... How many of our kids even know this? We have forgotten our principles. That's what we need to unite on, our principles. We need to discover them again. And then live them every day. And it starts with you and it starts with me. You know what made us great? Living by principles. We've never been perfect. No one is. Those principles is what made us stand up and lead the way. Getting away from those principles is what makes us stumble in the bad times. Find your principles, stand by them, and unite with other people that stand by their principles. Back in a minute. Our time together may be interrupted temporarily because the Blagojevich verdict, any minute now. Any minute. I can't wait. By the way, if it comes back and he's not guilty, my head may explode. I'm just saying it could get graphic. In 1780, John Adams wrote that we should be a government of laws and not of men. You think John Adams would be happy with what he sees today? I can't wait to see what he sees in Chicago in a few minutes. It practically takes an act of God to get people like Charlie Rangel, Maxine Waters, Blagojevich booted out of office. Whenever a politician does get busted today, the tired, oh, he served his nation for so many years, excuses trotted out, and justice is not served. They get a pass. Government also seems to favor or punish certain types of companies based on what they do or do not do. Let's look at one example. Barclays Bank. Yeah. They just caught facilitating payments to countries facing government sanctions between 1995 and 2006. And I guess it's another thing we can blame on George W. Bush. Now, what does that mean? That means they helped send payments over to countries that are our enemies. Let's see which they are. Let's see. There's Cuba, friend or foe. There is Iran, friend or foe. There's the Sudan, not really good. There's Libya, and then there's Burma, which somewhere around here. What do they all have in common? Enemy, 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 and Burma. These were not honest mistakes or paperwork mix-ups. No, no, no. No, the court documents on Barclays Bank, quote, say that they knowingly and willingly facilitated U.S. dollar transactions to dirtbag countries. So wait a minute. They knew what they were doing, and they weren't supposed to do it, and they're sending it to our enemies. What was the penalty? Are they all in jail? Barclays was fined almost $300 million. Whoa, that had to hurt. Yeah, unless you saw the size of their wallet. When you look at the size of their wallet, it's $14.7 billion in profits just last year. Yeah. Now let me ask you this. A government that does all they can to confiscate the profits of those big evil oil companies, oh, I hate them, they're so evil. Why aren't they fighting to do more here? Congress didn't shrug their shoulders after BP spilled the oil. They, oh, well, the law says we can only charge them up to $75 million for the cleanup. No, they sprung into action like superheroes. How come no one takes a second look at this bank to see if this cap can be lifted? Why, I wonder? All of a sudden, adhering to the letter of the law is the right thing to do for these people. That is weird. You'd think with this administration, the entire executive class of Barclays would be arrested. All of them would be out in cuffs. I told you those big banks are evil. Let me ask you this. If you were Fred Barclay and you were loaning money and we're pretty much laundering money to our enemies, do you think, if you're a member of the Tea Party, Eric Holder and Elena Kagan would just be like, whatever, hey, it was an honest mistake. Okay, so they were shredding documents too. Hey, it happens to all of us. No, I think they'd swoop down on ropes from helicopters and declare your room a battlefield. Yeah, you'd never be heard from again. This fine was 2% of a single year's profits. This wasn't a punishment. It was a transaction fee. A nation based on men and not laws cannot stand. Right now, we are completely 180 degrees of where John Adams hoped we would be. So how do we get people to do this and turn around? How? How do we get people to reverse that line of thinking? I think I have a little bit of a solution. You may not like it. Blogo won't like it. More on that. And maybe the not guilty, oops, did I say that out loud? Maybe that verdict on Blagojevich next.
There is breaking news now on Fox News Channel. I'm Shepard Smith in New York with details from Planet Blago, where Fox News has just learned that the former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich has just been found guilty of corruption while in office and guilty of lying to investigators during the course of this event. There were 24 counts against the former governor of Illinois related to his attempts, according to the prosecution, to sell or trade the one-time Senate seat at one time occupied by the current president of the United States, among other counts, 24 in all. They were hung on some of the charges, counts 1 and 2, racketeering and conspiracy to commit racketeering, no verdict there. Counts 3 through 13, wire fraud charges against the former Illinois governor, no verdict there. But as to corruption in office and lying to investigators, Rod Blagojevich found guilty today in Chicago. Our correspondent Mike Tobin is live on scene. What other details do we have, Mike?
Well, you know, Shepard, as we watched this trial progress forward, we understood that there was only one simple charge in that whole 24-count indictment, and that was lying to federal investigators. Possibly the confusion that came out of this jury when they said they had found him, they had reached an agreement on two separate counts is because there are two separate acts inside of count 24 lying to the FBI. One, that Rod Blagojevich said that he didn't track his political donations, and also a statement that he maintained a firewall between politics.
Signal is clearly breaking up. Our signal is breaking up, and then we're going to other things on the satellite there. But the headline from Chicago is the following. Rod Blagojevich, the colorful character who has graced our television sets for so many months, saying that he is not guilty. You've heard the wiretaps which the government had on him, where he said this thing is bleeping golden, as he put it, and he's not going to give it away for bleeping nothing. That's how he referred to the Senate seat once held by President Obama. There were charges, at least, and accusations that he planned to sell that seat. There are also charges that he tried to shake down the administrator of a children's home and many other charges along the way. The jury had some problems. They were deadlocked. They didn't know exactly how the procedures should work. But in the end, a unanimous, every single juror, unanimous on count 24, that Rod Blagojevich, or our Blago as we've come to know him, made false statements or representations to the federal government during the course of this investigation. Rod Blagojevich guilty of corruption in office. Mike Tobin, what does this mean? When will we know about sentencing? Will we hear from the jurors? Will we hear from our Blago?
Well, the jurors are supposed to go to a specific room and talk if they feel they want to express their sentiments. Very interesting to see, though, that this case that Patrick Fitzgerald, the U.S. attorney out here, once described as a crime spree that would make Lincoln roll over in his grave, they only came away with one conviction on one count of lying to the FBI. The other granddaddy charges that we talked about, trying to sell the Senate seat or barter for the Senate seat, trying to shake down the heads of Children's Memorial Hospital, trying to squeeze then Congressman Rahm Emanuel to get a fundraiser out of his brother. We didn't see any conviction out of this jury on those counts. Primarily, it would seem because those charges were just so very complicated and so subjective, and the prosecution never produced an ironclad quid pro quo where Rod Blagojevich said, you have to do for me X and I'll give you political favor Y, Shepard.
24 counts total, and guilty on but one of those counts, unanimous on making false statement or representation to the government. There's more crossing now, and I can tell you that the prosecution has just said that it will indeed retry this case, that Rod Blagojevich will be tried. Whether it'll be on exactly the counts as before, we don't yet know, but the government says it will retry this case against Rod Blagojevich. The judge in the trial says he plans to call a mistrial on all the remaining counts. So there is much more to go in the Blagojevich case. What sort of penalties this might carry is something that we'll learn as the day progresses. In addition, we expect that we may be able to hear from some of these jurors and anticipate that, in fact, we might very well hear from Rod Blagojevich. Prosecutors will retry, and now Rod Blagojevich guilty on but one count of making false statement or representation to the government during the course of this investigation. If we hear from Blago, his brother, who is also on trial today, or any of the jurors in this case, we'll, of course, bring that sound to you and all the reaction from Planet Blago in Chicago tonight on the Fox Report, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, 6 o'clock Central, right here on Fox News Channel. I'm Shepard Smith in New York, returning you now to the Glenn Beck program. I'll see you back here in just about an hour and a half.
Get out of here. They did not find him guilty. We're over here. This friend of mine over here, Mark, he's having his birthday today. I brought cupcakes for Mark. And, of course, Marcus Luttrell and his lovely girlfriend. Anyway, we're sitting here, and I said, Mark, we got to break out the cupcakes. They just got a dirt bag. They just got him. So we're having cupcakes here. That one's for you. Congratulations.